Captain Lisa Moore stood tall in her crisp blue uniform. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight bun. She looked out the window of the shuttle as it approached Nexus Station. The massive space station hung in the darkness like a shining wheel. It was home to the Galactic Council, where representatives from 50 alien races met to govern the stars. Lisa took a deep breath. Today was important. Today, humans would change their future forever. 5 minutes to docking, Captain, said the pilot. Lisa nodded. Thank you, Ben. She checked her tablet one more time. The message from Earth's President Ethan Kelly was clear. After 10 years of unfair treatment, humans were leaving the Galactic Council. Lisa had to deliver this news. The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Lisa walked down the corridor to the council chamber. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around her. Some had scales, others had fur. Some floated in the air, while others crawled on many legs. Once, this diversity had amazed Lisa. Now she just felt tired. Captain Moore. A moment, please. Lisa turned to see Zix, the small blue Drixie ambassador, hurrying toward her. The Drixie had always been kind to humans. Ambassador Zix, Lisa said with a nod. Is it true? Zix asked, voice low. Are humans really leaving the council? Lisa's face gave nothing away. All will be clear soon, Ambassador. The council chamber was a huge round room. In the center stood a raised platform where speakers addressed the council. Around it, rising in circles, were seats for each race. The Zortaxians, oldest of all council races, sat at the highest point. Their gray skin and 6 eyes gave them a look of constant judgment. High Commander Vrol of the Zortaxians banged his staff. This emergency session is now open, he announced. We understand Earth has a statement. Lisa walked to the center platform. The room fell silent. Representatives of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice strong. For 10 years, humans have worked as loyal members of this body. We have shared our technology, our resources, and our unique problem-solving abilities. She paused, looking at each section of the room. In return, the Council has restricted human expansion. You have limited our technology development. You have taxed our trade ships more heavily than others. Murmurs spread through the chamber. High Commander Vrol banged his staff again. Captain Moore, this is not the place for complaints, he said. I am not here to complain, Lisa replied. I am here to inform. By order of President Kelly and the United Earth Alliance, as of today, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens stood shouting. Others whispered urgently to their neighbors. The Zortaxians' faces darkened to a deep gray. This is outrageous, shouted Vrol. You cannot withdraw. The economic impact alone. Our decision is final. Lisa interrupted. All human personnel will leave Council space within 30 days. All trade agreements must be renegotiated directly with Earth. A tall Xilian rose from her seat. But the financial systems, the transportation networks, who will maintain them? Lisa looked directly at Vrol. That is no longer humanity's concern. As Lisa left the platform, chaos spread through the chamber. Ambassador Zix caught up with her in the hallway. Captain, please, Zix whispered. This decision will have consequences beyond what you know. The Council depends on humans in ways they have never admitted. Lisa paused. What do you mean? The Council has kept many secrets, Zix said. Without humans, many systems will fail. Not right away, but soon. And when they do, the blue alien shook his head. In her quarters, Lisa watched as human staff packed up the embassy. Messages flooded in from other races, some angry, some pleading. She ignored them all. That night, lying in bed, Lisa wondered if Earth had made the right choice. But she remembered the years of unfair treatment, the blocked human colonies, the restricted research. Sometimes, she whispered to herself, you have to walk away to be valued. She didn't yet know how true those words would become. 6 months had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. Commander Jack Price looked around the empty rooms of what had once been the human diplomatic outpost on Vega Station. This was the last human facility in Council space. All data systems cleared, Commander, said Sergeant Amy Pottle. Nothing left for them to find. Jack nodded. Good work. How long until the transport arrives? About 2 hours, Amy replied, checking her tablet. Just enough time to finish the last checks. Jack walked to the window. Vega Station wasn't as grand as Nexus, but it had been an important hub for human-alien relations. Now it felt different. The station seemed dimmer somehow. Maintenance robots that once moved smoothly now jerked along their paths. The air felt stale. Have you seen the news feeds? Amy asked, joining him at the window. About the Council problems? Yes, Jack said. Seems our friend Ambassador Zix was right. The reports had started 3 months after the human withdrawal. First, it was small things. Communication delays between systems, errors in the galactic credit exchange rates. Then bigger issues emerged. The automated transit systems that connected distant worlds began to fail. Trade routes became unreliable. Jack's tablet beeped with a new message. Well, that's interesting, he said, reading the screen. What is it? Amy asked. The Mardens have just announced they're leaving the Council too, Jack said. That's the 3rd species this week. Amy whistled. The Council's falling apart faster than anyone expected. The truth had surprised even Earth's leaders. For decades, humans had been the quiet fixers of the galaxy. Human engineers maintained the ancient systems that ran Council operations. Human financial experts kept the galactic credit stable. Human diplomats smoothed relations between bickering species. No one had realized how essential humans had become until they were gone. Jack's tablet beeped again. This time his eyebrows rose in genuine shock. A Zortaxian diplomatic vessel just entered the system, he said. They're requesting permission to dock. Here? Now. Amy looked confused. What do they want? Let's find out, Jack said. An hour later, Jack stood in the station's meeting room facing 3 Zortaxian officials. Their gray skin looked paler than usual, and their multiple eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress. Commander Price, said the lead Zortaxian. I am Envoy Kraz. The High Council sends its greetings. Jack crossed his arms. What can I do for you, Envoy? We're leaving in less than an hour. We wish to request an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership, Kraz said. His voice lacked the usual Zortaxian arrogance. Certain situations have developed that require discussion. You mean your systems are failing, Jack said bluntly. The Zortaxians exchanged glances. There are technical challenges, Kraz admitted. Nothing that cannot be resolved with proper assistance. Assistance you previously didn't think was worth fair treatment, Jack noted. The past contained misunderstandings, Kraz said carefully. The Council is prepared to offer new terms for human reintegration. Jack almost laughed. 6 months ago, these same Zortaxians had called humans primitive and demanding. Now they needed help. I'll pass your request to Earth, Jack said. But I wouldn't expect a warm welcome. We're building something new now, something better than the Council. As the Zortaxians left, Amy approached Jack. Do you think Earth will agree to meet with them? Jack shook his head. Not yet. President Kelly wants them to understand what they've lost first. As their transport pulled away from Vega Station hours later, Jack watched the once busy hub growing smaller in the viewport. Already, sections of the station were going dark as power systems failed. It's strange, Amy said quietly beside him. We never wanted this. We just wanted to be treated fairly. Jack nodded. Sometimes walking away shows people your true value. In the darkness of space, the lights of another Council station flickered in the distance. Soon, that one would start failing too. The collapse had begun, and it was moving faster than anyone had predicted. Dr. Samantha Wells stood before the United Earth Alliance Council in New Washington. Maps of stars and planets floated as holograms behind her. 8 months had passed since humans left the Galactic Council. The old council is failing faster than we expected, Samantha said, pointing to red dots on the star map. These systems have reported complete breakdown of trade routes. These others can't maintain their communication networks. President Ethan Kelly leaned forward. And your suggestion, Doctor? Samantha took a deep breath. She had spent her life studying alien cultures. She understood them in ways few humans did. We should create something new, she said, not just for us, but for all species who want fair treatment. I call it the Cosmic Cooperative. Murmurs filled the room. Some nodded. Others looked doubtful. How would this cooperative be different from the Council? Asked Defense Minister Laura Boyd. The Council was built on control, Samantha explained. The older races like the Zortaxians made the rules. Everyone else followed. Our cooperative would be about working together. All members would have equal voice. All would share benefits equally. President Kelly studied Samantha carefully. Which species do you think would join? The Drixie have already sent messages asking about our plans, Samantha said. The Tellarites and Vesh are interested too. These were races the Council always treated poorly. Can we trust them? Someone asked. They trusted us, Samantha replied simply. 2 days later, President Kelly announced his decision. Earth would form the Cosmic Cooperative. He appointed retired Admiral Paul Martinez to lead the diplomatic team. Samantha would serve as chief advisor. At her research office, Samantha reviewed files from the old Council archives. Human intelligence officers had copied these files before leaving Nexus Station. Most were boring reports about trade and taxes, but some contained secrets. Look at this, she said to her assistant, Greg Foster. She pointed to her screen. The Council blocked the Vesh from developing faster ships. They said it was for safety. But the real reason was to keep the Vesh dependent on Zortaxian transport. Greg shook his head. They did the same to us, didn't they? To everyone, Samantha said. The Council wasn't about cooperation. It was about control. She found more evidence in the files. The Zortaxians had secretly limited many species' development. They had kept important technologies for themselves. They had made sure no one species grew too powerful. Except they hadn't counted on humans. Humans learned quickly. They solved problems in new ways. They shared knowledge freely. The Zortaxians couldn't control human creativity. 3 weeks later, Samantha stood with Admiral Martinez as the Drixie ambassador Zix signed the first cooperative agreement. This is a historic moment, Zix said, his blue skin gleaming under the lights. The first step toward a better galaxy. More species followed. The Tellarites, the Vesh, even the Mardens, who had always been close to the Zortaxians. Not everyone was happy. Council loyalists sent messages to all worlds. They called humans troublemakers. They said the cooperative would bring chaos. But more and more species stopped listening to them. The Council propaganda isn't working, Admiral Martinez told Samantha one evening. Too many races have seen what happens when the Council systems fail. And they're seeing something else too, Samantha said. They're seeing that we don't want to control them. We just want to work with them. As word of the cooperative spread, messages arrived from worlds the Council had never even invited to join. Small, developing species who had been ignored now saw a chance to be heard. It's working better than we hoped, Samantha told President Kelly during her weekly report. We're not just building an alternative to the Council. We're building something the Council never could have imagined. What no one knew yet was that the real test was coming. The Zortaxians were not going to let their power slip away without a fight. 1 year after humans left the Galactic Council, the resource distribution systems collapsed completely. Space stations and colonies that once received regular shipments of food, medicine, and fuel now waited in vain. Ships arrived late or not at all. Some places had too much of one resource and none of another. Lieutenant Olivia Garcia guided her ship, the Mercy, toward the Proxima Centauri colony. The small planet had been home to a mix of species. Now its landing bays were filled with stranded visitors who couldn't get home. "How many do we need to evacuate?" Olivia asked her first officer, Alan Wright. "About 3,000, Alan replied. "Mostly Drixie and Tellarites, but some others too. They've been stuck here for weeks." Olivia nodded. "Let's get them home." This wasn't a military mission. The Mercy was part of Earth's humanitarian fleet. Since the Council collapse began, these ships had been busy helping those caught in the chaos. As the Mercy landed, Olivia saw the desperation on the landing field. Aliens of all types waited, surrounded by whatever belongings they could carry. Many looked thin and tired. A Tellarite official hurried to meet her. "Lieutenant Garcia, thank you for coming. We feared everyone had forgotten us." "Earth doesn't forget its friends," Olivia said with a smile. "Let's get your people on board." The evacuation was almost complete when Alan rushed to Olivia with urgent news. "Zortaxian warships just entered the system," he said, his face serious. "3 of them." Olivia frowned. "What do they want here?" Proxima was never an important council world. "They're sending a message," Alan said. "They're demanding control of the mining facilities on the outer moon." The Proxima mines weren't large, but they produced rare metals used in advanced technology. With council trade routes failing, such resources were becoming more valuable. "How long until they reach us?" Olivia asked. 20 minutes, Alan replied. "We can finish loading the evacuees, but it will be close." Olivia made her decision. "Get everyone on board now. We're leaving as soon as possible." On her command screen, she watched the Zortaxian ships approach. They were large and heavily armed. The Mercy was just a transport ship. It could not fight. "Lieutenant," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the Zortaxian commander." The face of a gray-skinned Zortaxian appeared on screen. "Human vessel, this is Commander Draz of the Galactic Council. You are in Council space without permission. Prepare to be boarded." Olivia kept her voice calm. "Commander Draz, this is Lieutenant Garcia of the Earth vessel Mercy. We are on a humanitarian mission evacuating stranded travelers. We have no interest in the mining facilities. All resources in this system now belong to the Council," Draz replied coldly, "including any ships we find here." Alan whispered to Olivia, "Last evacuees are on board. We can leave now." Olivia nodded. "Commander Draz, we are departing the system. We have no quarrel with you." "You will remain in place," Draz demanded. Olivia cut the communication. "Get us out of here. Maximum speed." The Mercy rose quickly, accelerating away from the planet. The Zortaxian ships turned to follow, but they were focused on reaching the mining moon. By the time they realized the Mercy wasn't stopping, the Earth ship had enough of a head start to escape. Later, in safe space, Olivia sent her report to Earth. "The Zortaxians are seizing resource-rich systems by force," she concluded. "They call it stabilizing, but it's really just taking what they want." The response from Earth Command was brief. "Continue evacuation missions, but avoid Zortaxian forces. The first shots of what people are calling the resource wars have already been fired." A Zortaxian fleet tried to seize a former human mining facility now run by the Drixie. There was fighting. "We fear this is just the beginning." Olivia looked at the frightened evacuees on her ship. What had started as a political withdrawal was turning into something much more dangerous. The Council wasn't just crumbling, it was lashing out, trying to hold on to power by any means necessary. And caught in the middle were thousands of innocent people who just wanted to go home. Kevin Rodriguez liked his quiet life on Talos II. The small planet sat at the edge of what had once been Council space. Few people knew that Kevin had once been one of Earth's top AI specialists. Even fewer knew he had left Earth 5 years ago after disagreeing with government policies. Kevin's home sat on a hillside overlooking purple fields. He spent his days growing local plants and fixing old computers for the mixed community of aliens who lived nearby. It was a simple life, far from politics and wars. Until the day 5 ships landed in his yard. Kevin watched from his porch as beings from 5 different species stepped out. He recognized them all. A Drixie, a Tellarite, a Vesh, a Marden, and even a Zortaxian. An unusual group to be traveling together. Kevin Rodriguez. The Drixie called. "We need to speak with you." An hour later, Kevin sat in stunned silence as his visitors finished explaining why they had come. "Let me understand this," Kevin said slowly. "The Council's central operations systems, the ones that run everything from trade routes to communication networks, were designed centuries ago by some ancient race." "The predecessors," the Zortaxian said. "Yes, and humans have been the only ones maintaining these systems for the past 70 years. Kevin continued. The 5 visitors nodded. "Why didn't anyone tell us how important this was?" Kevin asked. The Tellarate looked embarrassed. The council leaders did not want anyone to know how dependent they were on humans. They feared it would give Earth too much power. Kevin laughed without humor. "So instead, they pushed us away. And now everything is breaking down." "We need your help," the Vesh said simply. "You are the best AI specialist from Earth. You can help rebuild what is broken." Kevin shook his head. "I left Earth because I didn't want to be involved in politics. This is much bigger than politics." "People are dying," the Drixie said quietly. "Colonies without supplies, medical equipment failing, trade ships lost in space." Kevin walked to the window. He had chosen this quiet life. He had walked away, just as Earth had walked away from the Council. But now he understood that walking away sometimes had consequences you never intended. "I'll help," he finally said. "But I need to contact Earth first. They should know what's happening." 2 days later, Kevin sent a secure message to Earth. He explained everything his visitors had revealed. The response came directly from President Kelly. "This is bigger than we thought," the president's message said. "We knew the Council needed us, but not like this. We're establishing Operation Lifeline, a program to help suffering populations while maintaining our distance from the Council. We need your expertise, Kevin. Will you help us?" Kevin looked at the 5 aliens who had traveled so far to find him. They represented billions of beings who were suffering because of a political game they never asked to play. "I'll help," he told them. "But we do this my way. No more secrets. No more letting people suffer because of pride." For the next month, Kevin worked with experts from Earth and the 5 species. They created new systems to replace the failing Council networks. They designed them to be open and understandable to all races, not just humans. As their work began to help stabilize key systems, the Zortaxian High Council discovered what was happening. Their response was swift and angry. "This unsanctioned interference in Council systems is an act of war," stated their official message to Earth. "Cease all activities immediately or face consequences." President Kelly called an emergency meeting. "The Zortaxians are desperate," he told his advisors. "They see their power slipping away, and they're willing to threaten war to keep it." Defense Minister Boyd looked grim. "Are we ready for that possibility?" "We've been preparing since we left the Council," the President replied. "But let's hope it doesn't come to that." That night, Kevin received another message from the 5 aliens who had first sought his help. "The Zortaxians are moving military assets toward Earth space," it read. "They are more desperate than we thought. Be careful." The resource wars were about to enter a new and dangerous phase, and humanity was at the center of it all. As the resource wars spread across former Council space, Earth maintained its official neutrality. The cosmic cooperative, however, grew stronger each day. More species joined, attracted by its promise of equal treatment and fair trade. Major Nancy Kim stood on the bridge of the Defender, the first official cooperative peacekeeping vessel. Unlike the warships of the Galactic Council, the Defender was built by engineers from 6 different species. Its technology combined the best ideas from many worlds. Status report. Nancy asked her mixed crew. "Approaching Benari IV," replied her Drixie navigation officer. "Long-range scans show 3 Zortaxian vessels in orbit." Nancy nodded. Binary IV had recently joined the cooperative. Its people made their choice clear. They wanted no part of the failing council. The Zortaxians, it seemed, had other ideas. Open a channel to the Zortaxian vessels, Nancy ordered. The face of a Zortaxian commander appeared on screen. This is Commander Lox of the Galactic Council. Binary IV is under council protection. Leave immediately. Nancy kept her voice calm and firm. Commander Lox, I am Major Kim of the Cosmic Cooperative Vessel Defender. Binary IV has formally joined the cooperative. We are here at their request. We have no hostile intentions. The Council does not recognize your cooperative, Lox replied. Binary IV remains under Council jurisdiction. That is for the Binary people to decide, Nancy countered, not the Council. The communication ended abruptly. Nancy turned to her crew. Battle stations. Defensive posture only. We are not here to start a fight. The 3 Zortaxian ships moved to surround the Defender. They were larger and more heavily armed. Nancy knew her ship could not win a direct battle. They're charging weapons, reported her tactical officer, a former Council engineer named Jax. Nancy made her decision. Hold position. Shields at maximum. The first Zortaxian shot passed just over the Defender's hull. A warning. They expect us to run, Nancy told her crew. That's what the Council is used to. Species that back down had given to threats. What will we do? Asked Jax. Nancy smiled. Something they won't expect. She opened the channel again. Commander Lox, we will not leave binary space. The people here have asked for our protection, and we will provide it. If you fire upon us, you declare war not just on Earth, but on all 28 members of the Cosmic Cooperative. There was a long pause. Nancy knew what was happening on the Zortaxian ship. Lox was contacting his superiors, asking for orders. While they waited, Jax approached Nancy. Major, there's something you should know about Zortaxian weapon systems, he said quietly. All their primary control systems were maintained by human engineers for decades. Before they left, many of those engineers installed safeguards. Nancy looked at him with surprise. What kind of safeguards? Limitations, Jax explained. Their weapons will fire, but at reduced power. They don't know this. Nancy processed this information just as Commander Lox's face reappeared on screen. We will withdraw for now, Lox said, clearly unhappy. But the Council will not forget this interference. As the Zortaxian ships moved away, the crew of the Defender celebrated their bloodless victory. Word spread quickly through cooperative space. The New Alliance had successfully defended one of its members against Council aggression. Back on Earth, President Kelly received the report of the Binary IV incident with mixed feelings. It's good news that the cooperative held firm, he told Admiral Martinez, but we're moving closer to open conflict with the Council. The Council is splitting, Martinez reported. 6 more former member races have asked to join the cooperative in the past week alone. They see which way the tide is turning. Kevin Rodriguez, now working openly with the Earth government, added his perspective. The Zortaxians face a choice. They can continue fighting a losing battle to maintain control, or they can accept the new reality. President Kelly looked thoughtful. And what do you think they'll choose? Pride is powerful, Kevin said, but survival is stronger. The question is how much more they'll lose before they realize it. That night, reports arrived that the Zortaxian High Council had made an unexpected announcement. They were preparing their most powerful weapons, ancient systems built by the predecessors, for possible use. The message was clear. They would rather destroy the galaxy than lose control of it. 5 years had passed since humans walked away from the Galactic Council. The Council now existed in name only. A handful of species remained loyal to the Zortaxians, but most had either joined the Cosmic Cooperative or declared independence. Dr. Daniel Green walked through the busy halls of Unity Station, the Cooperative's headquarters. As head of the Technology Sharing Initiative, Daniel worked to help member species develop the tools they needed without becoming dependent on others. "Dr. Green," called a voice. Daniel turned to see Zix, now the Drixie ambassador to the cooperative. "The council has just finished their review of the Zortaxian application." Daniel raised his eyebrows. "And it's being forwarded to Earth for final approval," Zix said. "The Zortaxians have met all the basic requirements for membership." This was news indeed. After the failed threat to use their ancient weapons that had turned out to be disabled by human safeguards, the Zortaxians had faced a choice: adapt or become irrelevant. It had taken 3 more years of declining power before they finally requested admission to the cooperative. "President Kelly won't be happy," Daniel said. She still remembers how the Zortaxians treated humans in the council. Maria Kelly had been elected Earth's president 2 years ago. She had promised to maintain a strong but fair position in galactic affairs. "The president understands politics," Zix replied. "The question is whether humans are ready to work alongside Zortaxians as equals." Later that day, Daniel participated in a video call with President Kelly and her advisors. "The Zortaxian application meets all technical requirements," reported Admiral Martinez, now Earth's representative to the cooperative. "They've reduced their military, opened their borders, and agreed to share certain technologies." "But can we trust them?" President Kelly asked. "After everything they did." Daniel spoke up. "Madam President, while researching Zortaxian technology for the sharing initiative, I found something interesting." He displayed some files on screen. "These are internal Zortaxian records from before the human withdrawal. They show the High Council knew exactly how dependent they were on humans." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "They knew?" President Kelly finally asked. "And they still pushed us away." "They were afraid," Daniel explained. "Afraid that if humans realized how essential they were, they would demand more power in the council." The Zortaxians had controlled galactic politics for thousands of years. They couldn't imagine sharing that control. "So they gambled," Admiral Martinez said. "And lost everything." President Kelly looked thoughtful. "What do you recommend, Dr. Green?" "Accept them," Daniel said without hesitation. "The cooperative is built on the idea that all species have value. That includes former enemies." 3 days later, the decision was announced. The Zortaxians would be accepted as probationary members of the Cosmic Cooperative. Their full membership would depend on their actions over the next 5 years. The news spread quickly through cooperative space. Some celebrated the peaceful resolution of a conflict that had threatened to engulf the galaxy. Others worried about trusting a species with such a history of control and deception. In his lab on Unity Station, Daniel received an unexpected visitor. An elderly Zortaxian entered, leaning heavily on a walking stick. "Dr. Green, I am Elder Kraz of the Zortaxian delegation." Daniel recognized the name. "You were an envoy to the council during the human withdrawal." Kraz nodded slowly. "I have come to offer something that is long overdue, an apology. My people's pride cost the galaxy dearly." "Why tell me this?" Daniel asked. "Because you humans did something no other species has done in our history," Kraz replied. "You walked away from power rather than fight for it. And in doing so, you created something better than what existed before." As Kraz left, Daniel thought about how strange the galaxy had become. The mighty Zortaxians now sought membership in an organization created by the humans they once dismissed. Species that had never spoken to each other now worked side by side. All because humans had simply walked away. What no one yet understood was that the real test of the cooperative was still to come. The question wasn't whether former enemies could join together. It was whether they could stay together when new challenges arose. 5 years had passed since humans walked away from the Galactic Council. The once mighty council was now just a shadow of its former self. Most species had either joined the Cosmic Cooperative or declared themselves independent. Dr. Daniel Green stood at the large window in his lab on Unity Station. The cooperative's main base was much different from the old council stations. Here, designs and ideas from many species worked together instead of competing. Daniel was in charge of the technology sharing program. His job was to help all member species learn and grow without becoming dependent on others. This was very different from how the council had worked. "Dr. Green, you have visitors," said his assistant, a young Drixie named Haz. Daniel turned to see a group of Zortaxian officials entering his lab. Their gray skin seemed paler than he remembered, and they moved with less confidence than in the past. "Dr. Green," said the lead Zortaxian, "I am High Representative Vex. We have come to discuss our application to join the cooperative." Daniel was surprised. The mighty Zortaxians, who once ruled the galaxy, now wanted to join the organization they had mocked. "Representative Vex," Daniel said politely, "I wasn't told about this meeting." "It was not planned," Vex admitted, "but we felt it important to speak directly with a human leader." Daniel gestured to some chairs. "Please, sit. How can I help you?" Vex seemed uncomfortable. "There is concern that Earth will block our application. After how we treated humans in the Council, some feel this would be justified." Daniel studied the Zortaxians carefully. "Why do you want to join us now? For years you've called the cooperative a mistake, a temporary problem that would soon disappear." "Because we were wrong," Vex said simply. "The Council is failing. The cooperative is growing stronger. Our people need stability." As they talked, Daniel searched through files on his computer. He found what he was looking for: old council records that Kevin Rodriguez had recovered years ago. "Did you know," Daniel said, turning his screen so Vex could see, "that these records show the Zortaxian High Council knew exactly how dependent they were on humans. Years before we left, your leaders knew that without human engineers, the council systems would eventually fail." Vex looked down. "Some of us knew. Not all. Those who did feared what would happen if humans discovered their true importance. So instead of working with us as partners, you pushed us away," Daniel said, "and lost everything." "Yes," Vex admitted. "Our pride has cost us greatly." Daniel stood up and walked back to the window. Below, in the main hall of Unity Station, beings from dozens of species worked together. Former enemies now collaborated on solving common problems. "The Cooperative Council will review your application fairly," Daniel finally said. "But understand this. Here, no species rules over others. All voices are equal. All contribute based on their strengths. Can the Zortaxians accept that?" "We must," Vex replied, "or fade into history." That evening, Daniel met with Admiral Martinez and Dr. Samantha Wells to discuss the Zortaxian application. "They're desperate," Martinez said. "Their economy is collapsing. Half their colonies have declared independence. They also have knowledge and technology that could benefit everyone," Samantha pointed out, "if they're willing to share it. The question," Daniel said, "is whether humans can work with the species that treated us so poorly for so long." Samantha smiled. "Isn't that the whole point of the cooperative? That we're better than the old ways of holding grudges and seeking power over others." The next day, Earth's President Kelly made the announcement. The Zortaxian application would be accepted for review. They would be given a chance to prove they could be valuable members of the cooperative. As Daniel watched the news spread across cooperative space, he found himself thinking about how strange the journey had been. Humans had never wanted to rule the galaxy. They had simply wanted fair treatment. By walking away when that was denied, they had accidentally changed everything. The old council had ruled through fear and control. The cooperative led through cooperation and respect. And now, even the mighty Zortaxians were learning that lesson.